Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new YouTube video brought to you by us, the LJ Racing Group. So this time we're doing something a little bit different. Obviously, from us so far, you've just had the From Rags to Riches series. Just a quick note on that and any of videos going forward. If you have been enjoying them, please make sure you're leaving a like and dropping a subscription to us to keep updated with any of the new ones. Don't worry. It's not over. Obviously, we've got the new tournament coming up, which is going to be a big priority for us.
Massive priority.
Again, trying to get qualified after the disappointment of last time.
For those of you seeing it, we were approximately one win away from qualifying for the tournament with a very, very cheap horse. So we'll be hopefully looking to replicate something similar to that, won't we?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And,
I mean, this time you've got a few more qualification spots, haven't you? So I would be disappointed if we can't get them to qualify.
Yeah, got a few ideas of horses we're going to buy there. So hopefully we can have more success. But that's for another day anyway.
Yeah, but essentially what we're bringing for you today is we're going to actually have a look at our main stable. So obviously we have the From Rags to Riches, which is LJ Racing Group 2. We do have our main stable, which I'm showing you here, which is the LJ Racing Group. We've actually got 21 thoroughbreds at the moment, and we've got a win rate of 12.72%, as you can see there. We have broken the 100 win barrier, which is always nice. I guess we can talk about how much we actually invested when we started.
Yeah, so we started off back in April time, and we put in roughly £275 each, so £550 total investment. Yeah. And with that, we wanted a horse. We knew we weren't going to buy a world beater with that, but we wanted a horse that could race, hopefully be competitive. We wanted to learn the game, see what it was about going forward, and if it was something we wanted to pursue. So we actually bought a horse called Blanco, which you can see on the screen here.
Cracking win rate.
Yeah, it's it was certainly a learning curve.
It was
with racing him.
Essentially, it was a donkey.
Yeah.
But it was probably, I would say, probably our most important purchase. Even though we've had much better since, I would suggest this to anyone starting the game, to buy a floor price horse, which is what we did at the time. We paid way more than what the floor price is now for this horse, because obviously Zed was flying. But this was the floor at the time. We bought this horse. We didn't know anything about the game whatsoever, and this was literally, we were just running it. We probably ran 60 odd races with this horse.
Yeah, we won one race.
Absolute scenes when we
finally got that win.
But yeah,
bit of a reality check, really, wasn't it? When I started Zed Run, I thought we'd be winning maybe 1 in 10 races with this horse, but it sort of showed us that
you needed to go into a bit deeper. You need a bit of a plan. But I think it's really important for people just to actually get started, but not jumping into the deep end, spending. Yeah. Obviously, you can spend loads of as much money as you want. You can buy, your first horse can be a Nakamoto Genesis if you have the money. I'm jealous if you do. But obviously, I would be looking at a floor price horse, because you will make mistakes. We didn't really know much about distance preferences, what to look out for, speed. Like we've touched on in the other videos, which we've learned from things like Blanco. We didn't know that to begin with. So I'd say that for anyone out there who's looking to start a stable, I would buy a floor price horse and just run it. Just get used to the game, used to what's going on, because this is where we all start.
Try and make use of the free races with the tournament coming up as well.
Yeah.
Like there was no stamina at the time when we bought this, and it was literally just race, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and disappointment.
Literally,
But no, we definitely learnt a lot with that. Then a couple of weeks later from that, we thought, right, we know we have a plan in place now. We invested a little bit more money, so it was sort of around £750 each, so it's around about $2,000, and that was our total investment at the time, and we had a plan going forward. Here we are 6 months later, and we've got, say, 21 horses, and our overall investment, we've invested less than £1 in today's money, probably around about £3,000.
We've definitely got more than an ETH.
We definitely think our stable's in profit. We've got a win rate in double figures, broke the 100 barrier, so we're very pleased considering the amount of money we've invested and where we are today. So I think we're just going to run through the horses we got. So I think we're going to start with the Genesis horses for now.
That's it, yeah. So these are our Genesis pool at the moment. So Genesis, obviously, as you all know, is what comes from the drop. So we haven't had a drop in a long time. We never actually were successful in a drop. We tried. It was a nightmare.
A few late nights, wasn't there?
Yeah, as anyone out there who's been there from the beginning will know, it was a disaster from our side. With it crashing and never able to get one. So none of these were ever bought. These were all bought off the secondary market. We've never ever bought a horse directly from the Z marketplace. So these are the horses that we have today. So we have Orbuta and Genesis. So we have Temper Flare, who is a Z10 mare. We actually have, I think it is two mares and 4 males. That's the breakdown we've got. Really, we'd probably be looking at selling one of our males if we could to maybe get a mare.
A 4-2 ratio the other side.
Ideally, yeah. But Temper Flare. So if we touch on her quickly first, so she's got quite a good win rate, but it is, it's 2 wins out of 9. We basically, with our Genesis, we don't really run them, to be honest. The way we look at it is, we believe long-term Genesis are going to hold their value. I think they're massively undervalued at this point. The game for me is going places. It's frustrating at times, but I think that once the game gets bigger and bigger, Genesis is going to be what people want. So we tend to not race them. We primarily use them for breeding.
Protect the value. Basically, we've got a 22% win rate there. I don't think adding 4 or 5% onto that win rate would add that much value compared to maybe what 4 or 5% knocking it down could do. Being over 20%, we think is brilliant. So we're happy to keep it at 22 there, and she's basically in the breeding barn. And
every time she's available,
she's done a good job.
We can have a little look at her ancestry here. We've bred 2 horses from her. So we've bred Put the Kettle On, who, again, unfortunately was a donkey. The way we'd call it, 52 races, no wins. Obviously that's not all run from us. We sold that when we realised Tanawa is a good one. So she's had 33 races. Again, we'll touch on these in a bit more detail, but essentially we've got one good offspring out of her. Still Fly is another one who looks pretty decent. Obviously not owned by us, owned by Blue Flame, so shout out to you if you're watching. But that's Temper Flare essentially. If we go back and just have a look at a couple of other Genesis, so the main 2, we'll come back to Loser's Nightmare. So the main 2 that probably we bought when ETH was a lot lower, the first 2 Genesis we bought was Spanner and Calm. So we were looking for obviously a male and a female combination, and I think we kind of got a little bit lucky in some ways, to be honest, with these 2.
I'd agree with that. We bought Calm just after one of the drops, so she was unraced, unbred.
Still is unraced.
So we think there's no value in running her for us. She's bred a few decent horses for us, one in particular which I'd say from a breeding perspective really put us on the map was Denman. So obviously it might look fairly average now, but at the time when we bred, we were racing in marathon distances. He was pulling odds of between 3 and 4. He was.
I remember them days. That was exciting. When we pulled that 3 odds, that was exciting.
It was the time when you could only really race, enter 3 races, and it'd be like every 6 to 9 hours. So you'd enter one, wake up in the morning, he'd won 2 races, pulled low odds, and he was very successful. Then he sort of got to sort of class 3, and we noticed his odds were going up, wasn't winning as much.
I think we had 2 races at class 3, and straight away I said to Jimmy when we were running it, like he says, we were having, 8 probably was bad, to be honest, at the time.
We were disappointed with it.
Because we were getting greedy, and we were thinking 5 odds, we were thinking, oh my god, this horse is an absolute weapon. But then when we got to class 3 and we entered him, we saw his odds quickly slide to around the kind of 13 mark, which I think, as you can see here, the average odds is 13. I mean, I think whoever's owning this now is kind of sandbagging it because it's in class 4. It was actually in class 1 not too long ago, I believe, because of the way it was the way it was finishing. It was finishing all the time. It looks like, as you can see there, it's had 23 races as a sprinter, and it's definitely not a sprinter by any means.
I think he'd struggle to beat Blanco in a sprint race, wouldn't he?
Potentially, yeah. But we when we noticed that, we straight away we looked at selling, because we thought it's not a usual U-shaped horse which we could keep down at the low classes. So we looked at selling, and I think we sold it for around £1,000.
Yeah, it was about £1,100 we sold it for. So you're looking sort of $1,600, and we like to think anyway we put that money to great use.
Well, it cost us £60, I think, something
like that to breed. So
obviously, so that's in terms of return on investment. That was pretty impressive.
That was a good day. That so. Obviously, we used a lot of that money to buy the Genesis that you've seen there. And we dipped our toe into the Finney pool a bit. We bought a couple of legendaries, but
which you'll see one of them shortly, which is one of our best horses.
Yeah, but for the majority, it didn't really work out for us, did it? So we
went back to the Genesis pool really, which is what we've got, because kind of the way we go is we want to breed legendaries and then beauty and exclusives. But as we touched on, we found that a Genesis with a Genesis and a legendary makes a better exclusive than a legendary and a legendary exclusive. That's what we found. So that's why we've invested in it. Why you see we've got 4 male Genesis, even though we've probably got 1 too many. Yeah. We'll show our legendary females shortly, which we look to breed them exclusives that are hopefully better. But yeah, Denman was an absolute amazing part for us. I mean, Spanner and Calm in general don't really breed a bad horse.
No.
So if we just quickly go through it, so we've had Shiskin at 10% with 10 average odds, again pretty good. Pink in the Park is actually a bad one at 2%. Undersow 20%, 10%, that was way higher, as I say, 6% and 17.5%. So these two are. This is Calm, and we only breed her with Spanner because of Denman at the moment.
Try and make another Denman. Obviously, it'd be hard to sell another horse for that amount of money because there's no odds in the game anymore.
Yeah.
But if you can still have a horse as good as Denman, particularly if a tournament was coming up, we could definitely.
Denman would have qualified in the tournament. If we bred another Denman, it would have been in them races that you would have seen for the £3,000 prize. But it was that good at Class 5. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, it wouldn't have won anything, I don't think, in the tournament up against them better horses because
we know he struggled as he got up, but he definitely would have qualified.
Yeah.
And again, so you've got Spanner again. So there's a few more breeds here. So we've got Apples Jade, who we'll touch on, which is 17.29. Ellie May is a new one. We'll touch on all of these horses, but again, you can see as we go down, the win rates of all of these are pretty decent. I would say he's a pretty proven breeder, and he's someone that we kind of rely on every month to breed with. As well as Spanner, we've also got Losers Nightmare, who's another pretty good breeder. Again, not a racer, 6.74% win rate. Z9, not a racer, but if we just have a look, so again, we've got 100% 1 from 1, 14%. A few not so good, and then you've got Tanawa again, who we touched on, who's obviously the dad here, a 14% win rate, an 8% win rate. So again, a pretty good breeder. And I think we've got Blueberry Cheesecake as well, who's a pretty decent actually runner, and Benefit Cut as well. So we'd probably get rid of one of these ideally. I think we don't really need both of them.
The least two that we're interested in, but. If we were to sell one, we'd reinvest that in another Genesis, I feel.
Yeah, a mare. I think we'd buy a Genesis mare, which is probably what we're looking at next. But Blueberry's a pretty good runner, with 11.56 odds there and a 13% win rate. So probably one of the better races. Actually, we could probably try and run a bit more long term.
Potentially.
So that's the Genesis. So
that's a bit of an intro to our stable and showing you the Genesis and a bit how we got into the game, etc. So that's going to be part 1 of our stable intro videos, and we're going to make a part 2. We're going to look a bit more in depth into the legendary horses we've got and the exclusives and a bit about what we're going to do going forward. So hopefully we'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you very much.